Okay, thank you so much, Sneha. I'm happy to see a lot of ASCENT members who are Rotarians as well on the session today. So it just proves that this synergy that we thought is there between both the entities, it's only natural that we take it forward in terms of the collaboration. So this is one such attempt towards introducing ASCENT to Rotarians and of course vice versa to see how you can be part of both the entities and take advantage of being part of it. I'll take you through a little bit about ASCENT. I know members are there here. It may be a little repetitive for them, but this is for the benefit of the Rotarians on the session today. It was started by Mr. Harsh Mariwala, chairman of Marico Ltd. This started with the whole intent. It's a not-for-profit started by him in 2012 with the intent that being an entrepreneur can be very challenging and the stakes can be higher when you're scaling up. So what we predominantly do is that this forum or this ecosystem is for entrepreneurs who have a proven business model, who are on that growth stage and not necessarily the startup ecosystem. These are organizations which are growing and who have the potential to grow. And what we do is go through a selection process, take them as members and put them on smaller peer groups which meet every month in a very structured way, every month for 3 hours each. That's the kind of commitment you need to bring to ASCENT if you want to be an ASCENT member. A lot of entrepreneurs struggle with the fact that they feel lonely, isolated, and then in their journey, and having a peer group helps them to go through those challenges not alone. A lot of organizations also do not, have advisory board, and this becomes their sounding board. So what we have essentially created is a safe, confidential, and non-judgmental environment for entrepreneurs to be themselves with their peers, where they can where they can share their personal and professional challenges. The core of any peer group that we have formed is trust. I know it does not come easily to people and definitely not entrepreneurs, but we have lots of tools to make that happen so that you start sharing your challenges with people. And when you get insights from other entrepreneurs also, it will not be yarn based, it will be experience based. And that's the value that you will get from entrepreneurs in your peer group. Can we go to the next slide, Ruchika? What we expect is when a member, the only entry barrier to join ASCENT is our stringent selection process for a reason, because we expect the entrepreneur who's chosen to become an ASCENT member to have the same commitment that he or she brings to their own enterprise. So that's very important. What will happen in the group, which meets every month on 3-hour basis, is peer learning is organized, networking is done, and progress is tracked. We are a completely learning platform. We are not a transactional platform, which means doing business with each other within your own trust groups of 10 to 12 entrepreneurs is not encouraged within the groups. So that's something that you need to keep in mind when you become an ASCENT member. We of course are looking at entrepreneurs who have an open mindset and are looking at a long-term commitment to be part of this peer group. A little thing about peer group is when I'm talking about 10 to 12 in a group, it would be a mix. Of course, it will be completely diverse businesses. Otherwise, why will you open up? But also they are in the same scale and stage of business as well. It will be completely diverse in the sense that you would have somebody who's manufacturing steel, to somebody who's manufacturing plastic, to an IT person, to a logistic person, to a fashion designer. So you understand that there is a lot of diversity in the group that we form. It will be a mix of family managed businesses, it will be a mix of first generation businesses, and diversity is celebrated within this group because that's where the sharing and learning happens. Over and above the trust group, and we have such 51 such trust groups which are functional across India. Over and above that group, we have created a lot of value in terms of learning for our members. So we have a one-on-one mentoring session, which is called the Power Up program, which is a curated list of domain experts that you can get in touch with on a one-on-one basis also for your own learning. We have an iRise program, which gives you access to investors if you're looking at funding. We also have knowledge sessions that we partner with Rotary and others to bring those knowledge sessions to you as well. We have academic partnerships with Stanford and SPGEM, which is ongoing. We have huddle sessions, which are these deep diving 3-hour sessions into a certain topic. again, which are not GAN based, which are experience based, and that's what something that you get a lot of value from. We do a lot of workshops, which are a lot of interactive workshop that we conduct as well with McKinsey around design thinking, with Mercer around adaptive working. So whatever the entrepreneurs need, please understand all these knowledge sessions are done in consultation with what our members want and is designed as per the questions and learnings that they are seeking. So it's a complete co-creation with each of our members. We are 600 members at this point of time at ASCENT in the last 8 years of our existence. Conclave is our annual event that we conduct, which has always been in person, but these are interesting times. These are interesting ways of doing sessions. So we are taking it online this year. We're conducting it not like a day session. We're conducting it at 4-day session with 2 hours, 2.5 hours each, where there'll be 2 hours of knowledge sessions and half an hour of very intense curated networking. You will have to log in and register to know what the surprise there is in terms of the curated networking. But we have amazing line of speakers. Right now we have Dr. Raghuram Rajan. You will see him in a fireside chat with Deepak Parekh. We have Kiran Majumdar Shaw. We have a panel discussion on modern workplaces. We have a panel discussion on tech. We have a fireside chat with Vani Kola from Kalari Capital. And we also have cricketer Saurav Ganguly coming in talking about leadership and what he has in terms of his learning leading the Indian cricket team. So these are some of the interesting things that you can look forward for the conclave. It's on 25th to 28th November. Please go check out our website. Can we go to the next slide? Right. In terms of the criteria, quickly, we're looking at, it has to be a promoter. You cannot send proxy people to these meetings. You need to show up. So these are only for promoters or stakeholders. We're looking at service companies which are 1 crore and above in their turnover, manufacturing company which are 5 crore and above. Right now, our turnovers are anywhere from 1 crore to 2,000 crore, which are represented through the entrepreneurs that are there. We're looking at growth potential in an organization. We are looking at if you're not associated with multiple industries, because that becomes difficult to place you in a group. So please make sure you're not, you're not into multiple businesses. That becomes a little challenging. And of course, it needs to be profitable. Can we go to the next slide, Ruchika? Right, and we'll keep this here. You can reach out to one of my team members, Anuj, if you want to understand more on how you want to go through the process. His email ID and number is there for you to reach out. And of course, you can reach out through all our social media assets on Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And a lot of our content is out there on YouTube for you to see. We've had some amazing speakers in the past, like Mr. Rajiv Bajaj, Kishore Biani, Uday Kotak, Sajjan Jindal, Sangeeta Reddy, Amira Shah. So you please go and check out the content. We're very proud of the content we put out there. Some of our own members, ASCENT members, are Rotarians as well, are Nikunj Chaveri, Gopal Vasudev, Nikhil Rungta, Karishma Parekh, Jay Devanji, Shatul Gupta, Asim Dalal. So you know your friends there within Rotarians. You can reach out to them to know more about ASCENT. Yeah. Okay, that's it in terms of the ASCENT update. What is the most interesting thing for today evening is our esteemed speaker, Mr. Unnikrishnan. Very happy to have you on board today, Mr. Unnikrishnan. I'll give a quick introduction about him and hand over the proceedings to him. Mr. Unnikrishnan has been the MD and CEO of Thermax Group since 2007. Previously, he has led a team to scale up Thermax from 500 crore to 5,000 crore in the last 10 years. He just retired, I think a month back, to now head and be the CEO of IIT here in Mumbai. So welcome back to Mumbai, sir, from Pune. Happy to have you here with us. And, he's also led the HR functions at Thermax to have a turnaround period. During the turnaround period, he's credited to create a leadership development program for the group and manage the Operation Excellence program for over a decade. Over and above this, he's also the chair at the CII's National Committee on Industrial Relations, co-chairs the Apex Council created by the Government of India for implementing the Prime Minister's doctoral fellowship, and is a member of the Project Approval Committee, SERB, Government of India for industry relevant research. So that's the long and short of introduction of Mr. Unnikrishnan, but I must say that Mr. Unnikrishnan has been contributing as a power-up mentor to some of our entrepreneurs. And we have a rating system because Mr. Mariwala is very particular about rating, and he's always been, every entrepreneur he's met has been giving him 5 out of 5 as a rating, because that's the kind of phenomenal feedback that we get from our entrepreneurs and the value that Mr. Unnikrishnan has been providing to all our entrepreneurs. And we look forward to a continued partnership with him as well. So a very, very warm welcome to you, Mr. Unnikrishnan, from ASCENT and from the Rotary Club.
Thank you, Archana. And thank you, Sneha and Abhilasha too. Very rarely do you get in this country an opportunity to be addressing all fair agenda and then start a talk. Otherwise, it's one, and we like always say very few lady or lady and gentleman equivalent to that. So thanks a lot for affording this opportunity for Sneha and Abhilasha too on the count. And I've been a very happy mentor of ASCENT Group because I felt a lot more knowledge gained by me than me giving out. I don't know why they gave me a 5 out of 5. Because the kind of learning that you get from the new lot of investors, budding industrialists, budding billionaires of tomorrow. I mean, I've been able to see all of that because the selection process possibly followed by Archana and team are so good that they do have the right people selected. And it becomes very interesting for us, our mentors, because if there is a learning quotient of a higher nature in a mentee, then it becomes much easier for us to be passing on whatever is the learning. And if you really ask me, there is not too much that we can add value other than listening to them and possibly just giving it back like a consultant, giving it a little better way. When a consultant gives it back to them in terms of after having collected the data, when people like us or practitioners have lost a hair by practicing it that way, when you give it back to them, they naturally take it with a lot more confidence that the guy will experience it, live the life of that. That's my experience with ASCENT. It's a great thing for those who have already joined and can join, because it's certainly a very powerful program in my understanding. And both Sneha and Archana, you chosen a very, very apt topic. I don't know, am I the right person to teach? Because I thought, okay, industry is too much for me, 13 years of being at the helm of a company. I thought, okay, I'll guide research students for PhD, which is what I'm doing at IIT now. So that's the biggest change that I've taken. So 38 years into the industry, at the tip of it where people retire from their job in government at the age of 60, I'm joining the government of India. So that's the biggest change in my personal life. But having seen a major change in the industry, which most of you do belong to, way back in 2000, where Anuaga decided that the family will withdraw from this family-owned, family-run company into a family-owned, professionally-run company transition with the help of a consultant that BCG participating in helping us. 20 years of journey of mine from 2000 to 2020 through some of the most tumultuous time has taught me change can happen not only because you're wanting to change, the ecosystem will force you to change. And Archana mentioned about it, I heard Sneha also touching it upon in the beginning, that currently all the changes that we are going to be undergoing are brought in by the outside forces, not the inside forces where you want to refine yourself or emancipate, evolve, change, equivalent. No, the things are changing at such a faster pace, you may not have a time to respond. And many people have started reacting. That's why 37% of Indian companies, first reaction was to cut salaries of employees, may not have been needed at all. Many of them are reinstating. I've seen the Indian industry reacting. I've seen the Indian government reacting as a part of 2 task forces, which were given the job of ensuring that we have enough and more ventilators, beds, and PPEs. One of them I was working on. And second was related to economic support needed for the MSME, which of course is a part of ASCENT's program also. So coming back to that, I have seen this country instead of responding, reacting, and possibly taking the blunt out of it at this point of time, wanting to unlock and finding it very difficult to get the economy back into order. So this is a change that is brought in by external forces. And in my personal experience of 38 years and whatever I have read about it, This is the first time in the recent history in the industrialization of any country where there is a supply side and demand side both impacting, and the software that is embedded in the brains of all of us, what we learned in running business, is either capable of managing one of them together to manage a supply side and the demand side. I don't think any one of us is fully prepared for, nor are we going to be getting it back in order for some time to happen. So this is the biggest environment brought in change that we're going to be facing. And those who have responded to this are sailing through this, navigating it well. Those who reacted to this external forces will be certainly wanting to correct it. So possibly that's where I'll start on. How do you look at change? It's an inevitable thing in any case. Archana has already given me some input through maybe her colleague also, that what is that you're looking forward to understanding? Because I'm sure your Rotary Club is, ensconced with members who are already at certain level. They're not looking forward to something fundamental. I'm sure you're looking forward to something much more advanced. Well, as I mentioned about the way you look at change is where it makes a lot of difference. Change can be something fearful. It can bring in a lot of fear in your mind because all of us are used to, most of us, let me say, not all of us. I can't be putting everybody in the same bucket that way. When you've got a comfortable life, owning companies which are running quite well, having decent balance sheet, why should you be making any change in any case? It will be unsettling. So the fear of unsettlement is something which is what makes us not to change. You only need to tweak it to see the other side of the same coin known as change, where the fear side is one which we normally see. The unseen side of that particular coin is a new era, a new experience, which may bring in something which is innate in you, which is not experienced by you. If you are to be experimenting with that on the other side, a change is the best thing to happen to each one of us in our life. Now that needs a lot more of ability to be elevating you to see the other side of the coin, which is, you're continuing to see it, something like anything in front of me. There is for example, this is a cell phone which I'm seeing the screen. Unless I turn it around, I won't be able to see, or else I have to elevate myself. This is a learning which I had when I did my AMP at Harvard Business School, that when we had a living group comprising of 6 of us, and they have chosen 6 of us from 6 different industries and 6 different countries. Each will be given a room which is just about sufficient to go to sleep. But the hall was so big, okay, and provided with all systems for your meetings. And every day we had to be doing 3 case studies. And after reading the case study in the evening, was possibly a drink. We need to be discussing it to get prepared for the next day in the classroom. First time in my life at the age of 40, when I went to Harvard to do my AMP, I have seen the way different sets of people coming from different cultures look at the same problem and come with different outlook to resolve it. And initially it is damn difficult because all of us are already done quite well in our life. It's very difficult for us to be accepting somebody's point of view. And mind you, somebody who's from a Swiss insurance company versus an airline's going to be the next chairman. Another guy who's already an executive director of a bank in Fiji, going to become the chairman of that. Each one of them have succeeded in their life, and the same case study, through their eye when they look at it, it has got a different perspective. And I learned for every problem there are multiple sides, and most of us were trained to look at only what is known to us. And that lens is always, the color of the lens is there. So looking at a same issue, same problem, same scenario from different point of view will give you a totality of understanding. Then you will be willing to change. This is what one needs to be understanding, that normally our reactions are based on what is innate in you, and you mirror the issue or maybe what is external to you with your own mirror. But that will only give one picture. Multiple pictures available to you is what is going to be motivating you to experiment. Of course, you've got to have a mindset of flexibility of a different nature to do that. So this is a theoretical portion. So let me move on to something more practical to talk about why do we need to be changing at this moment. Forget about the pandemic and COVID. If not so also, Indian economy was already on a downslide. So I'm sure if this didn't happen also, you would have read about in the newspapers that maybe our growth rate is going to come down to less than 5%, 4%, 3% equivalent to that. That's already on the trip. So maybe it is available for all of us to camouflage, to say that, sorry, the pandemic has caused all of that. So that in any case is going to be happening. And how India responded and is capable of responding is what we need to be understanding. So let me give you 2-3 reflections of the changes which are happening around us, which all of you should be privy to, especially those who are in business, whether into manufacturing, service, or even if you're into consulting or education, everywhere one has got to understand. Way back in 2010, one major change happened to the world. I don't know whether all of us have noticed. Some people have noticed that the number of connected machines in the world have exceeded the human population. To be precise, human population near 2010 was 7.3 billion, and the connected machines in the world have exceeded the human population. And between 2010 to 2017, this has only quadrupled, means gone by 4 times. Another 5 years, by 2017 to 2025 prediction is, it is going to be increasing to 40 times. That 4 is going to become 40 times. So the only thing smart about human beings now in the future is a smartphone which is in your pocket. We are no more smart as human beings. We are being left aside. So this kind of a rate of change of technological advancement are we used to. Now, possibly the pandemic is going to force all of us, because we learned something a lot. Companies, including Thermax, where I ran it for a 13-year period, where I remember Meher Padamji, my chairperson, telling me 5 years back, Uni, can you have flexi hours in a company? Can you not look at work from home in a company? And I was very stoic along with my entire executive board to tell them, Meher, you don't understand heavy engineering business. It's impractical for you to, do work from home. It's impractical. Forget about it. That's possible with IT guys, it's not meant for us. I didn't have a choice but to eat my humble pie when we had to be doing a lockdown. Thank God I started in the month of February, seeing, because we had a factory in China. Already we were aware of what's going to be happening over there. So we took an advanced action. I recognize and believe after my CDO, Chief Digitization Officer, came back to me to tell Uni, almost 30 to 35% of all the work done in our company can be done from home. But of course, we prepared. My systems have to be kept alive for 24/7. So I got to have my servers on and access given to people. But I don't have that capability for it. And similarly, the people who may be needing to work from home, they may not have ideally the kind of machines needed. That is, I'm talking about the laptops with that kind of a capacity, or a desktop of the kind, Wi-Fi equivalent. Thank God, I never recognized that I could be hiring 800 laptops of that particular capacity in exactly 2 weeks. India has got a lot of capability. I could hire it instead of spending money. Coming back to that, maybe within a period of 37 days, we made virtually the company restart the activity, a heavy engineering company. And thank God the government of India also supported us by giving some permission to restart. So it is a great learning which is forced upon me and my entire company without any choice, because the world has made the change. So when I mentioned about the first portion of the digital world that is going to be evolving, is going to be impacting each one of us, because the rate of change is going to be, as for the more slow. It is going to be a multiplier. I'll give you one more example of my personal life related. I like to talk about what I've experienced. This is what I do, talk to your, my mentees also. Real time, what I've experienced in my life with honesty. So I remember in 1984, when I started as a sales engineer in your city of Bombay, meeting, I'm not going to name the customer, is around over here, not in this table, but they are in Bombay. And for a boiler, which we were going to be supplying for fairly large capacity for those days, he was a highly emancipated, highly advanced, technically oriented person, owner managing director. He told, only I've seen in the Western world, people measure the oxygen coming in the chimney as an indicator of the efficiency of the operation. Can you give me a quote for that? So that time the boiler was going to be costing 30 lakh rupees, and this oxygen analyzer with a paramagnetic or zirconium, one of the props based one, was costing, is not made in India. We had to import it from Japan or Germany those days. I remember I had taken a quote. It's taken a month for me to get a quotation those days. It was going to cost 14 lakh rupees, almost equal to 40% of the value of the body. He laughed at me and told that, हाथी का प्राइस महंगा है क्या, वो उसके साथ जो लकड़ी है उसका महंगा है, equivalent of that. Yeah, I mean, there should be a sense of proportion. The same sensor today made in Germany is available at $10, not made in China, let me repeat it. What is costing in 1984 for the customer, which is, I don't know, I never converted those days, I didn't remember the foreign exchange rate. I'm sure it would have been maybe equivalent to maybe $100,000 those days. is available at $10. And the $10 item today is almost 1,000 times more capable of taking the information data and also capable of transmitting it. The change, technology change happening. So whatever at some point of time was available to human beings with the panchendriyas of ours, the senses are available today through mechanized systems. So those will be collecting the data the way human being is smelling and feeling and touching, and all your things can be done by sensors at a very cheap cost. And believing that they may fail, you can always have 2-3 of them per item, and the data collected that is transmitted to a system which will do a big data analysis. Because earlier even I didn't understand till 2010 what is big data. This is a huge quantum of data that all of us are collecting by the nanosecond and sending it to our brains, and the processing happening over there. That's nothing but data analysis. And then you do human intelligence is replicated with artificial intelligence. So the big data that is analyzed by the computers of today, the laptop of yours is a supercomputer today. Of 10 years back, supercomputer is a laptop today. And that does an analytics of that one, artificial intelligence, which is, we thought is only human being will have the intelligence. That's all available to that. And it is sending into advanced robots, which is embedded with machine learning. So what does machine learning mean? Whatever you would have readjusted a machine based on the data coming, adjustment done to a machine is nothing but machine learning, continuous learning by the machine. So when I mentioned about earlier connected machines and the population going to 40 times in the future, by 2020, future is not 25 years down the line or 30 years. I'm talking exactly 4.5 years down the line, where this is what is going to be, irrespective of what pandemic is on. Systems are going to be changing, these are going to be changing. Are we ready for it? That change. So these are changes which, not because you want to be efficient, not because, you want to take your company to the next place. There may not be a place available for you in the future for your companies, unless you're willing to be accepting the fact that changes are going to be overtaking the human capabilities. Adapting to that is a necessity going forward. That is something which you need to be understanding. And another learning, Archana, I can talk about for the consumption of people over here is that I have learned another thing, that most of the time, many of us had been taking decisions based on our past experience through a curve fitting capability. All of us create a software of our own. That is what is our brilliance or intellectual capital, as we call it as. It's a learning experience of 30 years, 35 years. But when you do a curve fitting on based on the past to the future, in a fast changing world, it will be impractical. And my personal experience had been, I have created a shadow executive board of Thermax with children who are exactly 3 years, not more than 3 years experience in the company. Okay. And the brighter guys, we selected them through an exercise of 271 of them participating in that. They were tried exactly in 2 A4 sheets what they envisioned about this company in the next 10-year period of time. And me and my HR head, Sharad Gangal, went through each one of them. It take a lot of time. And from that, we shortlisted people and selected 8 of them. And anything that had to be decided as a policy, whether to buy a company, sell a business, restart, or maybe set up a new factory, any major decision that you're going to take, whatever is the docket prepared by my CFO and team will be handed over to the youngsters. And mind you, any and every one of them, before my EC meeting, they would call for a shadow EC meeting, telling them, we are ready. Are you ready to come and listen to us? And without fail, I can tell you, whatever they told us, good for the company. Many a time, what was advised to me by the executive board was continue what was happening in Thermax. It would have taken the company ahead. I'm sure it will never take the company backwards. It would have taken the company ahead. But if I had listened to them, I wouldn't have been able to face a competition in the market, because the youngsters knew what is going to happen tomorrow in the new world. So, are we willing to embrace our own people, the younger lot? At home, if you're going to buy a new mobile or a new color TV, would you take a decision, or will you allow your son or daughter to take the decision? Ask the question. If that be the case, when you want to take a futuristic decision for your organization, will you have an incorporation of the millennial youngsters coming forward? A trust factor is a necessity in that one. You should be willing to trust the next generation. And remember, 2021 is very crucial for all of us. Not because pandemic will end or vaccine will come. There is something more. It is the millennials are going to be entering the job market. Unfortunately for them, it is not the best time, but they are going to be coming into, just to give you the numbers, we will be passing out near to 13.8 lakh engineers next year, June. Okay, that's a number that's going to be coming. I don't think there will be sufficient jobs, but they're going to be in the market available. And almost 4 times graduates who have done science and maybe commerce. I'm not taking the arts graduates because you may not want to take them, but are going to be available, and they are going to be coming in the next 1 or 2 years into the system. They are the millionaires. What is that? I mean, I know about millionaires, that none of them know your multiplication table, because when they went into the classroom, calculator was allowed in the classroom. Okay. And in any case, none of them wrote anything. They always had a laptop next to them. Not only laptop, they had iPads. So maybe, their finger moves much faster, 10 times or 100 times faster than all of us. So that is something like their competency coming in. The modern thinkers, the fast moving set of people are going to come into the industry. They will rewrite the way things are going to be done. Are you ready to be incorporating them in your thinking and in maybe decision-making process? Is something which is going to be, you have to be taking charge of it. Not so, times are going to be difficult for you, because if you don't do it, your competitor is going to do that. Or else they'll become your competitor for you tomorrow. So can you have that transition managed where you hold the purse strings, still keep with you, but can the decision be made by the modern minds of tomorrow is the next thing that you're going to think about. Another one, which change which we need to be, again, I'm only talking about the wiring change that all of us need to be doing. I remember when I became a SBU head way back in 1990 for EID Pari and company I worked for those days, at a British company being bought over by Murugappa Group. And I became, at the age of 30, an SBU head. And decision-making process, I still remember all of us are trained about it. So if I had to put a number for it, if I had to put a color for the data sufficiency for decision-making, at least 70% of the data was absolutely white in nature, means trustworthy data. And a 10% was unknown. So unknown was there. And 20 is a gray kind of a data. So with 70 white, 20 gray, 10 black, decision-making is what I've started wiring in my brain. So that's a wiring available. I would have improved it across the time. But in today's world, which all of you guys are calling VUCA, I'm sure I don't need to be taking a class on VUCA. It's, I hope, Archana, do I need to talk about it in detail, or it can be taken for granted that people are aware of that?
You can just elaborate, saying VUCA stands for volatile, uncertain,
complex and ambiguous. Okay.
Yeah.
So 4 words encompass that. That's what is today. Your life today is VUCA. Do you know what is going to, when is the vaccine going to be ready? Will that going to be sufficient for 6 months? Can you get reinfected after 1 year? Volatility means if you get impacted. I'm just taking one example of this pandemic itself, and I can explain the entire thing in that point. There is a volatility as to will it take away so much of population, because one doesn't know. In some countries, the rate of the death rate is 8%. Some other countries 1.5%. It's volatile. There is nothing like certainty. It's uncertain, and it is so complex that no mathematical modeling. I remember IIT Bombay is the one which did the mathematical calculation for Maharashtra's number going to be. Oh, it's already done. India, IIT Delhi has done it. That they have been a part of some of this. All the calculation made by all the best brains of the country had failed so far in every aspect. So it is so complex that it's not so easy with algorithm to be calculating that. Ambiguous is on account of the fact that the gray is more, I already indicated. The VUCA world, and this is the only pandemic going to be happening in the future, God only knows. Entire wiring, for example, for somebody like me, I believed in WTO. That is, Thomas Friedman's book that the world is flat. You can move your people, your money, and anything everywhere in the world. World is a village. Where is that village going to? I don't know. Every country today is ruled by people who think about their country, their race, their people, there. So it is irrelevant today, WTO. Is irrelevant. So the wiring that people like us would have created over there, it's uncertain. That is the VUCA world. In this VUCA world, uncertain times, which are going to be prevailing, well, you cannot predict about tomorrow. So our ability to be changing fast is a must. And how to lead organizations in this kind of a time. There again, I can give you an example to talk about. Again, life example I'm trying to remember. I remember the time when I used to travel to Calcutta, Hooghly River. Just picture those who have gone to Calcutta that way. And during the normal season, not the rainy season time, think of those old boats, biggish ones, which can take maybe 100 people, and it will be two-storied one, then the underground equivalent, under the water area, maybe the lower bottom deck is place where a diesel engine, noise-making diesel engine available. And on the ground floor is where all the people sit in the wooden benches of those days. And there will be a small cabin on top. And the chap who sits on top is a captain. And those days, I remember in the language of Calcuttans, they used to call him Srank. I don't know what it meant. Srank, just a person who sat over there. And there's an engine operator who's in that bottom place where the engine is there. He's the guy whose hand and every dress is also dirty with dirty oil. And he's the guy who increases speed, reduces it. So the guy from top will only ring a bell. One bell means stop the engine. Second bell means start the engine or engage it that way. And if it does it in a faster pace, then put it onto the full clutch and speed to be increased equally. So the job of the captain was almost equivalent to the CEO of the company in the normal circumstances before the word VUCA was invented. All of us sat in the top cabin. Some of them had pipe in their hand. Some of them didn't believe in smoking, so they had something different. They had a cushy, nice life going on. And there were people who dirtied their hands and managed everything. Things were so good. And the captain's job became only a little difficult during the rainy season, which is normally the monsoon season. For 2 months, when the flow of water is always decided, the water never goes in a reverse direction. Please remember that in the Hooghly River. It never goes the other way. It's only one direction. And of course, little of ripples, waves. That time to maneuver in that is the captain is involved. That's the only time when you can see the captain or the stand coming down to help the engine operator. So which means there is an economic downturn which happens, which we are used to. Then the CEO is very much involved. Cash is king. You will, in fact, ready-made PowerPoint presentation available with all of us. The first sentence in a crisis is cash is king. Don't give credit to anybody. Preserve cash. Standard answers are there. Now it's a PowerPoint presentation given in management schools. People, take it out and give it that way. But this is one scenario that prevails. But in a VUCA world, this captain will not be able to. His thing can overturn. If you're lucky, possibly you may still remain a captain. Your boat also will survive. But in reality, for those who have done whitewater rafting in this particular group, I don't know how many of you have done it. I've done a couple of times, and different rapids have done. In the best for all of us to do the process is in Karnataka. It's the easiest one also for all of us to learn that. But if you really want to learn about whitewater rafting, you have to go to the Himalayas. In whitewater rafting, what happens? There is no captain. Either you can have 4 people, 6 people, or up to 8 is practical for that. And you don't know what's going to happen the next. It's quite like within a rapid, you can dive by almost maybe 20, 30 feet or so. And it's so uncertain. And when it's going to be toppling onto one side, there is nobody to come and tell you that, okay, press the guy sitting on the other side to push their foot down to ensure the balance is done there. This is exactly what you need to be managing organization. Nimble and everybody feeding for the organization and working together to take it ahead. That is a change that you're going to bring in. I gave you the example of the Sran where a captain sitting in the Hooghly boat versus the whitewater rafter. The organizations who are able to build teams where there is no need for a captain, where they look up to him to give the bell to do what you need to do. Every member of your team should have that ability and a sense of belonging and a capability built in through training to ensure that where he is located, decisions will be taken to protect your organization. And because it's like an avalanche, the changes are going to be happening, you will not know, and you will not be able to train them. You will not have time to react to that in a hierarchical way, where somebody sends some mail, somebody approves it, then again gives it, go to the board and take decisions. And incidentally, I had been party for a couple of, retraining the board members for the current situation and what's going to be happening. And one of the biggest advices that anybody and everybody worth their salt are giving to Indian independent directors and board members are that don't be hard on the management, don't go after them, don't ask them for details because they are very tight and they are capable. Trust them, believe them, and support them from within rather than questioning. The crisis management is to be done that way. So a transformation is needed from the board to CEO, to the management, to the lowest of the person, where an empowerment of a different nature needed to ensure that you are able to absorb and embrace a change. And this is something which all of us should be very, very careful about that. And this change to bring in, who are the people responsible for it? In my opinion, we as leaders are responsible for bringing in the change. We are going to live by that. Many times what happens is that we will believe that all our people should change and I can remain the same. It will never happen. It will never happen. You can have the value system of your company to be retained. If you never paid bribe, ensure that nobody does it today also. Nobody will do it 10 years down the line also, 100 years down the line also. That's the value system. You treated your employees with a lot of love, care. Please retain it. You care for environment, care for it. Those are the value systems of the company. The cultural transformation to be in tune with the time is something which you are going to allow to be inculcated. That is going to ingrain in your own medulla oblongata, your own brain. You absorb it. You show that by example and be flexible. Then others will see you. Because others are looking up to you to change yourself so that they can change themselves. So a group will ensure that it is being changed. Then the area of influence of your supply chain, area of influence of wherever you are in, you got to ensure that all of them are aligned with your way of movement in the change. If this is done, and what you need to do is communicate a lot more. Upwards, downwards, parallel, a lot more. And people are ready to change today. Provided they know why they need to be changing. And if they are told to change without giving a reason, it may be exhibited as a change, but it won't be a real change. And this is something which, we need to be. And I'm telling you, at any age you can make the change. Your biological cycle is reversible. Please remember, that is reversible. But the mental cycle is advancing for the positive, not for negative. So when the body declines also, the mind is growing. So it is practical for you to be embracing the change within yourself, and you can make the change. And then when you make the change, others will certainly embrace that change also. That's the way you're going to be moving ahead to make the changes happen. So Archana and Sneha, if I'm being given an opportunity, I'll continue talking. So let me stop over here. I have attempted to personally give the classical version to some practical version. And if time permits, I can give some answers for some questions also.
Thank you so much, Mr. Krishnan. We definitely have a few questions from our audience already, and some that have been sent in advance as well. At this point of time, I will request all attendees to start posting their questions on the chat box so that we can, direct it towards Mr. Krishnan. I'll take a few which have already come in. This has come from Samir Kaji, who's an ASCENT member. I liked your idea of shadow board of 3-year experience youngsters and bringing the modern mindset. What is your take on their future role in the company? How will they be viewed by the seniors?
First and foremost, though it could have been an idea emanated out of my brain, or maybe I would have seen it happen in other companies, I never put it down the thought of my next level. So we have monthly EC meeting, executive council meeting. So it was brought in by my HR head as an idea. So first I had my idea, I discussed with the HR head, and then the HR head brought this as an idea, and he had examples to talk about what can be done. So we had a debate on that. So we conversed towards a decision to do this. So once it is owned by the executive council, but natural for them because the main competition is between the executive board and the youngsters. So that is the point number one. And you're going to select the right people. When you give so much of authority and visibility to very young people, they need to be also mentored to ensure that they don't, see, they will not show it in front of you, but when they go back to their respective businesses, they'll act as if they are the deputy executive vice presidents or maybe equivalent of that. So there you're going to handhold them for their own safety. Otherwise, they'll be ejected out of their business. They'll perform very well for this particular committee, but will they be able to perform there? So that is something, two things to be managed over there. So it is done quite well in that particular thing. More importantly, beyond that also, you need to be spending a lot of time with them in the beginning to make them aware of it. So it needed a lot more of coaching to be given. And somebody also asked the question, what will be the future? Of course, it's got started, the new batches, not that they're permanently available for that. It's a exposure and training for them. They have gone back with a great change equivalent of a job like what they would have been in a particular level, they got a level change in their job when they went back. And new batch is already on. They were inducted and it is already available for the new CEO of the company. I'm sure they'll be kept there for another 3 or 4 years and then we'll go back.
A question from Sneha. How are you bringing this, embracing the constant change to your new role as the CEO of IIT Academy? Is it different from implementing it in a large manufacturing company like Thermax?
It's a little longer story, but I'll cut it short to say that I had been in the Prime Minister's Doctoral Research Fellowship as an Apex Council member. I'm the current Vice Chairperson for it also. So I had been talking, I'm the only industry member over there and the chairperson is the IIT Delhi director. I had been talking a lot for the past maybe 2013 onwards that research should be done not for getting a PhD, it's to solve a problem remaining in the society. So when post-retirement, when I was wanting to take a professor of practice job in Bombay, they told you had been propagating a lot of theories early, why don't you practice, come and take up an executive position rather than professing that practice it right now. So we have taken it up. And I'm very happy that I've done it up because this is a one of a kind, first of a kind in the world. Now it is being copied by others. Started in 2008. It's a 50-50 JV between IIT Bombay and Monash University of Australia. It's a 61st largest university. No university or IIT is rated as big as them in India. That way. And we do take students only for PhD, preferably in science and technology. But my first addition will be that I want to have humanities added over there because I believe a society which only develops science and technology will be oblong and very similar to what happened in one country closer to us who's currently challenging us at our borders. When you have only oblong growth, an overall societal growth will also be needing pure sciences, but art forms also and human sciences also to be done and social sciences. So that's one addition I'll do that. Okay? So that is a change to be brought in over here, as you mentioned about. First of all, I'm sitting full-time in this academy in a lockdown condition, but there is no need for me to come here. And the answer I gave it to IIT Director and the Vice Chancellor of Monash Universities, my wiring is that of a CEO of a company. Unless I sit over, if I work from home, I'll think sitting in Pune in my home, like a CEO of a company. When I sit in this academy with my mask on, I still will transcend from being a company CEO into an academy CEO. Here my students are at a stage of fluidity. They have not started living. Okay. So my life experience is not important for them, which is what I give it to my people in the company, to a general manager, to a vice president, even to a president. I'll give my experience. That experience is of no use to them, the students over here. So there are professors to supervise their research. But which topic to select which will be useful for the society and get away from paper publishing into patent creation and creating new companies. So I'm also aligning myself over here with the startup mechanism over here, incubators to support them. So create knowledge, technology, patent, start your own company. I'll come to some of you to get finances for them to ensure that we create from Indian knowledge companies of future. So that is my intention. So that is the transformation which I'm looking for. It's nothing to do with company way. It's altogether.
Okay. There's a question from Kushma. Machine intelligence is expected to surpass human intelligence in the next decade or so. What challenges will this bring to humans and organizations, according to you?
Memory-based intelligence, processing-based intelligence, which is rated in the earlier past in human society, as intelligence will be withdrawn because all that can be replicated by machines. It will happen. Anything that is repetitive in nature can be done by a machine tomorrow. So first and foremost, life will become much easier for all of us and ladies to start with because most of these technologies will transcend into home management. So verbal command that you're giving to your servant today can be given to a robot tomorrow, advanced robot. So the otherwise servant will complain to you and they'll ask for more money, they'll take leave when you don't want them to be taking leave. Robots will not take leave. So that's one transition. So let me assure all the ladies over here, especially in a matriarchal society like ours. So that will be the first change to happen. But to be precise, creativity has got to be improving a lot more. People will start living better. I asked this question when I talked about in various forums, the jobs of tomorrow. If robots are going to take the jobs away, what will happen to human beings? who decided that we should be working for 8 hours in a day? It's the International Labour Organization, when they did a mission MTM study, found out that human being will become fatigued if you work for 8 hours at an average speed of 3 miles per hour. So they put a ceiling of 8 hours. So it got started maybe when ILO got started. Why should you work for 8 hours? My great-grandfather never worked for 8 hours. I don't know how many hours. I know that there was no work time for him. He was an Ayurveda physician. So I'm sure he worked at his leisure. So work is going to be changing in the future. So some of the set patterns of life will have to be changing and will change also going forward. This for the good. Instead of we unduly trying to get worried about what will happen. So in a government meeting, I was asked this question, if robots are going to take away jobs, we are not like Japan or Singapore also, where shortage of people are there, we've got surplus people. So my answer for that is, so if you introduce robots, put a robot tax for it. For every robo implemented or put in your home or anything, you charge a tax. And with that, you give a social security for human beings. And in any case, think creatively how to create better robots and how to make them. There will be enough and more jobs in India for that because others are lazy. You have an opportunity, you're not invested in the country. We're a small economy with too many people. So utilize the human capital to ensure that the solutions of tomorrow are created by you. That's the way you got to think about it. That's my think on it. The changes are going to be total. And my request to many of the people over here, think about what company will you run 10 years down the line. Don't think about your company will be multiplied, which is what ASCENT is doing, which I support. But I'm talking about, you can also think about totally shutting down what you're doing or sell it out to somebody and start something new if you've got creativity. So think about it.
Got it. So Nikrishnan, we have a lot of questions, so I'll request you to go a little faster on the responses so we can answer as many questions as possible. There's a question from Rishit Shroff. In your experience, with reference to today's topic, what did the family promoter play with respect to Thermax? In your, was it a professional struggle there?
Not at all. Not for me. My predecessor had a bit difficulty because when the family members stepped aside to become non-executive, yeah, from what you were doing till you're not allowed to do and your employee is going to do that tomorrow, the withdrawal symptoms will be there for some time. But after that, when they know that there is, when you liberate, a family owner liberates them from day-to-day affairs of the company, they can float their mind in the universe and ideas can come in. So they can think at a very, very lofty level. When you have a day-to-day management to be also looked into, you are whatever may be the capability, your thinking cap can't be available to you 24/7. So we sat in very well and I had an excellent relationship and I never felt they were stampeding. They are interfering. No, it worked quite well, let me say that. But it needs, I agree with you, there is a no man's land. So the word is how to manage the no man's land, because in business there will be areas which can't be defined. Undefined area, how to manage is what we have to take care of.
Question from Rafiq Musani. One problem we faced in Kolhapur, interiors of India, is we don't get talent from IIT and IIMs, and we need to build businesses with available pool of talent in a place like Kolhapur. Best people always migrate to big cities. Your thought on this?
Talent is not institute. Talent is not a degree. Talent is something that is innate in a human being. And my own take is that there is good talent available even in Kolhapur. We need to ensure that they are tapped and they are motivated. And the class is IIT, of course, if you want to get an IIT talent over there, not that it's impractical, but then you may have to give an ESOP to him. Because he will want a financial material gain of a different nature than a person who's going to come from Kolhapur Engineering College or a Karad Engineering College. So this need of wealth creation is different than the person who's going to come from a rural area.
Sure. Next question from Om Gupta. Sir, like a writer has a writer's block sometime, entrepreneurs also suffer from similar blocks which can last for extended periods, during which period there is a paucity of ideas, especially when it is of utmost importance to get ideas at that time. Either to drive the enterprise or lead through a tough phase. How does one manage during the situation?
My personal experience is not all the ideas will emanate out of your brain. You need to have the receptacles open and discuss with people. Many a times ideas come from your subordinates or your peers or maybe from outside. An open mind and an ability to communicate and discuss will get you many ideas. But when you bottle that within yourself, so that is where you have to join maybe platforms like ASCENT. I'm not trying to sell Archana that, but because seriously I'm telling you that way, especially when you are an entrepreneur with a single one person where you are also the owner and you are also the CEO, you are also your finance manager, everything put together, your mental engagement is so high that it's very difficult for you to be creative every point of time. So dialoguing with others, mirroring with others, certainly will give you ideas. And you can process it later to accept it or not is your choice.
Right.
So you have to communicate with people. Not every idea. Some ideas may be yours, but a good number of them, my personal experience is that most of the things that I implemented in my career has come from my team members or maybe friends or maybe from outside. Observe it, you'll get ideas. World has got, nature has got a lot more of to give you. Like biomimicking is the right word.
So we like to take a few more questions, but before that, can I request my team to put a feedback poll here? As I mentioned earlier, it's very important for us on this feedback and rating system because it helps ASCENT to do better in terms of content and creation about that and what will work for you. So can I request the team to put a poll here? We'll take not more than 30 seconds to take this poll, these 3 questions. Can we make that live, team, before we continue with a few more questions and we can end the session because I think we are running out of time as well. Ruchika, Shravana, can you please make that live? Great. Right, as we take this poll, I'd like to pose the next question to you, Mr. Unikrishnan. One is from Kaushal Bhuva. Sir, how do you hold on to your workforce, especially during these times as they tend to look at other options due to job insecurity? How do they hold on to talent? How do they hold on to these? So, Unikrishnan, would you like to respond to that?
I didn't hear you.
Sorry, how do you hold on to your workforce, especially during times like this, as they tend to look at other options for job security?
I don't think attrition rates have gone up at all during this period of time. In fact, many HR heads are complaining that people aren't leaving organization because attrition is a must in the company. Currently, they will not be. Your behavior at this point of time is going to be deciding will this stick to you once the pandemic is over. So I don't think there is a crisis at this point of time as far as people attrition is concerned.
Okay.
And what to do with them? See, you've got to show the human face. I have never come across anybody borrowing money to pay salaries. I have come across people borrowing money to do various things at this point of time. There are very few who have done that at this point of time. So what are you showing to them? That you care for them? These are the indicators you're going to give it to them.
Sure. So I think we're running out of time at this point. I think thank you so much for taking a lot of questions, and I hope it was a lot of value for the attendees today, both from Rotary and ASCENT side. Sneha, over to you to do the vote of thanks for us.
Yeah, thank you. For that, I'm going to ask our past president, Rotarian Manoj Gursani, to step in. Manoj?
Yeah, thanks, Neha. And I recall the conversation you, and of course, initiated by Nikunj when we, Archana, all the team, Samir Kaji, Ruchika, all of us got together and finally the day had arrived. And thank you for Team ASCENT for putting up this wonderful speaker who I'm going to talk about. And Archana for your dynamic, very active and proactive leadership. And all the best for your coming conclave which is coming up. And Unikrishnan ji, what should I tell about you? You touched upon aspects like the VUCA world. You gave analogy of the White River rafting. You spoke about machine learning. You touched upon every aspect in this uncertain world, which clearly talks about the most constant thing is change. And of course, as you rightly said, the pandemic has probably made all of us realize that, and the global leadership, not only in the corporate world, in the individual capacity, everybody has realized how one has to cope with it. and probably learning. And it was a great thing to learn from you. You come from, such a great background, and of course, the leadership which you provide and have provided at other forums. Thank you for sharing your valuable time. And it was very profitable for me, and I'm sure for most of my Rotary members. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much for your thing. Thank you so much for the feedback as well. I like to thank the Rotary team and my team who put this session for us. Thank you, Mr. Unikrishnan. Always a pleasure to have you engage with ASCENT.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Stay safe.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you. We'll close the meeting from the Rotary end. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.